about I read about this guy got arrested at Boston airport for smuggling in his backpack a vampire straw. Yes, that's right, a vampire straw. So two incidents at two different airports across the country. And I'm at awe. That's all I can say. I'm at awe. All right, we had 27 minutes after the hour. We have Joseph Lee of Impact Counseling and Consulting Services standing by. And good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you this morning?
Pretty good. Isn't technology wonderful?
It's something. It's wonderful when it works. I'll put it like that. But
I say
you know,
when you text me going back and forth, because I got the phone next to me and you text back and forth. I said, yeah, I went through those days. I mean, you do the same thing every day, and all of a sudden, it doesn't want to work.
yeah, I had this set up, to automatically pick up, and so then it wasn't there. I don't know what happened. They decided, well, we're not going to roll the appointments forward. So, we had to figure it out. So glad we could work it out and be on here. So I did want to clear up something from last session. I did have the name right. It was Tyree Nichols.
Yes.
If you remember right, last session or last meeting or show, we actually talked about how the Republican Party was so polarized and the Democratic Republican Party was so polarized that they wouldn't even stand up and acknowledge this family. And the mom, Tyree Nichols' mom actually stood up and kind of looked at him like, hey, get up, you need to be respectful of, what's going on here and the points. But the Republican, following their party line, couldn't even stand up and acknowledge, and sympathize with the fact that, it's been excessive violence, right? Because that's their party line, that they don't support anything to do with, police brutality or anything like that, gun violence. They don't want to mess with that money coming from the NRA. And it just shows how bought and sold our politicians are, right? That you could have a mother sitting right there, just losing her son, and on the decency of just standing up and saying, hey, I need to acknowledge this loss and remember that this is an American family that's been adversely affected by police brutality. So, we got to move past the party line. And you can go back to that political Biden's address and you can see it yourself. I think it's like the sort of middle of the presentation or the address that that happens. The mom, actually, you can see her look down at the Republicans that were right below her, like, where is the support?
Yeah.
You may not agree with the other side, but you have to agree that we've lost someone, and it's a tragedy, and we can't even move in that, right? So it's just this this rhetoric. And we really got to take a look at it. I was looking at the news today, and the article I just saw is we're inching closer to nuclear war with Russia, right?
Yeah.
We don't have time to be fighting amongst ourselves and not even acknowledging the humanity on each side of the aisle, right? We've got to figure this out and start working together, because there are wolves at the gate, and psychologically, watching the news all the time, not feeling connected. I don't know what happens up in Washington. I have no idea, but it seems like there's a huge disconnect. There's a huge disconnect with what's going on in the day-to-day lives of the American people, at least on one side of the aisle, right? Because they don't have any plans. If you're a Republican, I would like for somebody on here that's Republican, that's listening, out of our 10,000 listeners, to tell me what plans are in place. I know what they don't like, but what plans are in place to deal with, the issues that are going on with gun violence, right? Affecting our kids. What's going on with, how we can work together to deal with this situation in Russia. Saying that Biden's doing it wrong, but then not having a plan on how to do it right, to me, is just, not going to work. You're actually getting paid to sit up there and come up with solutions, not shoot down every solution that comes up. And until people can come up with a plan or come up with something tangible that we can see, their butt needs to be out of office, right? Because what are we doing here at this point with all these shootings? We just had, I started to put my Army jacket back on because every week we come in, there's another there's another shooting to talk about. Just had another one in Oklahoma. So every week for the past, I don't know how long, we've had another active shooter situation to talk about. Yet nobody seems to know exactly what to do. Politicians are pointing to mental health. Mental health is pointing to the guns and not being able to be proactive, and we're stuck. Well, how about this? If you're stuck and you can't come up with a solution to help deal with this situation, tougher gun laws or violence, how about we get your butt out of office? There's no reason for you to be sitting up in office in Congress or Senate or at the local level if you don't have some solutions you're putting forward that has some teeth. And God forbid, you have to, fight back and push people out of office that are actually trying to do their job. Like we had the three politicians, the two African-American politicians in Tennessee that were kicked out for just saying, hey, listen, we cannot stay at status quo. We can't.
Right. I
We
know.
can't. So I applaud them for bringing the casket up to the Capitol. I believe, personally, I believe they should show those pictures.
I agree.
I believe they should have those pictures in their offices every day of when there's an active shooter, what their result, the blood that's on their hands, because they're in the back pocket of the NRA. And let's just talk about that. Why are we in the situation that we're in? It's not that they couldn't come forward with, realistic and legislation to deal with the situation. Is that they won't, because they're in the back pockets of big pharma, NRA. They know that if they go up against any of these the money bags, they're going to possibly be out of office, or there's not going to be anybody supporting their campaign and the party line. So let's just call it like it is, and maybe we need to start thinking about some kind of boycott, until we start seeing some meaningful legislation. Maybe we need to stop spending money for a day or two. Maybe we need to start spending money for a week or so.
Yeah.
Until we start seeing some realistic legislation, and maybe we need to organize in some boycotts or something, because what we're doing right now isn't working. It's not working.
It isn't.
It's not working. So we've got to, you want to talk about mental health? Yes, I've done suicidal ideation. I've done homicidal ideations. But the problem is, after you have to wait till a person does something before they can come and remove weapons and all that type of stuff. We've got to get to a point where we're more proactive on that. I'm sick of hearing every week we got to talk about it. Another school shooting, another disgruntled person with no coping skills that has to resort to grabbing a military-grade weapon and taking the lives of innocent people because they're not being heard or they're not being helped, right? So it'll take more than just mental health care, because you know what? Like you said on last week's show, there's mental health problems going on all over the world. I know personally, because from this office right here, I've treated people all over the world with mental health issues. But the one thing they don't have that we do is the gun violence. So it's not rocket science. We've got to deal with this situation, get these guns off the street or out of the hands of people that are going to potentially be a threat or have serious mental illness. If somebody is espousing. So we looked at the family. I don't know if you heard or watched on the news, the family of the 84-year-old that shot the young man who just rang the doorbell. They are siding with the young man's family.
Yeah, because they said he wasn't. His ex-wife was even on talking about that.
And his son even said that. His son said that we don't have a relationship with him because he's been a racist for years. So now we're starting to fill in the context that, it was not just, that, hey, he felt threatened or whatever the case may be, whatever he was trying to argue. It was a Black young man, African-American young man that stood on that porch, and that's why he shot through that glass. I'm sure somebody has rang his doorbell before. I'm sure of that. So why is it now that he decides to shoot? When I'm sure somebody has rang his doorbell before. Trust me, I know Jehovah's Witnesses has been through the house. I know they have.
Yeah.
No, maybe I didn't hear about no rounds being shot at them. I got no trespassing on my house right now, and they still ring the doorbell and try to not sell me something, but have something they want to talk to me about, which involves me buying something, right? So come on now, we got to call it like it is. And there's too many mentally ill and unstable people out here in this country to have access or close to the line, close to snapping. Because just like you said this morning, this lady didn't know why she snapped like that, right?
Yeah.
Saw the guy that snapped on the little baby crying on the airplane.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are we so on edge? Look at it. All this stuff that we go through in this country it has an effect. Watching the news all the time, how polarized we are, all the things that are going, it has an effect on the mental stability. And it's right here on the news. If you look and see what's going on, people are on edge, and we're the most well-armed society in the world. So you tell me what's going to happen and what's going to continue to happen. Look at the trajectory that we're on. And, I don't know about you, but I don't think we're safe in this country. It's going to get to the point where it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when there's going to be an active shooting situation that is around you at some point.
Yeah.
We can't go out in large numbers and enjoy it. We got fiesta going on right now down here in San Antonio. And I pray every day. I'm praying today. I'll be praying tomorrow that nothing stupid happens down there. People are just trying to have a good time. We just had COVID, couldn't do anything. Now we're starting to get back out and do things. Now we got these lunatics out here with firearms following whatever philosophy or civil war or whatever garbage that they think that we're doing. And meanwhile, Russia is playing around with nuclear warheads and what they may or may not do, knowing that's going to be mutual destruction if they launch anything over here.
Yeah.
They can't take over Ukraine, but they're talking about launching warheads over here to the United States. How do you think that's going to work out? How do you think that's going to work out? Right? China talking about invading Taiwan.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to work out? Little Kim Jong-il shooting up his little rockets everywhere.
Yeah.
South Korea talking about they need more protection, more help. We're getting to a little bit of a boiling point. And, we got to start connecting the dots. While we're fighting amongst ourselves, we got strong enemies that are coming together overseas, and we got to keep an eye on the prize. We got to deal with this stuff that's going on. We're vulnerable. We're vulnerable. We talked about the Chinese having a police station in Lower Manhattan.
Yes, sir.
Their own police station, and harassing other Chinese folks that were, kind of standing up against the Chinese government. So we got problems already over here. We already got other countries over here. We're fragmented. Our politicians are happy to sit there on their butt and just let the countryside be ravaged by gun violence and not seem to have a solution. Well, if you don't have a solution and that's your job, why are you still there?
Yeah. Which brings up this point right here, since you said politicians. Tommy Tuberville has drawn criticism from the Senate Democrats. He is holding up military promotions because he does not like the Pentagon policy on abortions. He's holding up 144 military promotions because of that. And why? And another point, why you're talking about the NRA, there's over 5 million members. For $45 for 1 year, you could do that. For 5 years is $150. It's $5 a month basically to join the NRA. That's why they're so powerful. It's so cheap to join, but yet they hold these politicians like puppets.
I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
You wonder where the disconnect is happening. Just follow the money. And it's so funny because, I already laid out 2 sessions ago or 2, shows ago, what the policy is of the Republican Party is gaslighting. That's all they do is gaslight. They project fears, phobia based on greed. We've talked about that many times. And then what they do is, they're not going to ever challenge that flow of money because it's a power grab. That's all it is. But my thing is, how can you continue? And I already know how. I mean, that's kind of a facetious question. I know how they are allowed to sit in that seat because they keep playing to creating the enemy when the enemy is right there in the house. Yes, we got problems with fentanyl and the drugs that are coming across the border and all that. We've got some issues with that. But the threat, those guns aren't going to protect us from that. Common sense legislation, more drug busts, more, working with cooperation with the Mexican government. That's how you deal with that issue, right? But to deal with the issue of the country being taken over, or these so much crime, we see now pouring more guns on the situation does not help deal with more crime. It just doesn't. Because when an active shooter decides to do what he's doing, the way our infrastructure is set up right now, it's almost like they have to do something before we can do something.
Yeah.
And we have to put more controls in place. Having more police officers, I think who was the idiot that said having more police officers at the school was going to solve anything. The standard, Ted Cruz, right? So when is he going to get under a rock, wherever he came from, and just go back to it, right? What are you talking about? You got an officer standing there. Didn't they have an officer in New York when the guy showed up and killed all the African American people at the and what was that? What was that shooting over there in Buffalo, New York?
Buffalo, yes.
Yeah, he had a handgun. He shot the guy. The guy's got an AR. He comes with a vest on. What's he going to do about that? A handgun is not going to compete with an AR. Common sense. So are we going to become like Russia? Like Russia, like Mexico, where we have to have the military at every particular spot that we go to deter a lunatic from coming with an AR? Perhaps. You know what I'm saying? Have somebody already out there with an AR in the schools to protect in case a fool shows up with an AR. That would be more of a legitimate. We got the National Guard. Hey, I don't know. It seems like we're under attack. So why don't we roll them out? Have a detachment in most of these schools.
Yeah.
Until this stuff dies down. I don't know about you, but all the families I talk to, it's in the back of everybody's mind. School shootings, and I think it's reasonable. How many? What number are we at now? How many school shootings are we at now?
It's just like we have more shootings than a calendar year right now. Also, there was something on TV the other day, which we mentioned on the last time we were on. There are more guns per capita than there are people in the United States. Guns out, and that's just the legal guns. We're not talking about the illegal ones. That's just the legal ones. And it's scary of that thought right there. Are we gonna go back that everybody have a gun on their holster walking around, just waiting for something to happen?
Well, I'll tell you what, right now, we pretty much are there. We got 2 states that allow you to not, those of us like myself to have a CCW, we have to go get training and get a license for that. But now in Texas and in Florida, anybody can just walk around with a gun on their hip.
Mm-hmm.
But we're already there in some states. And, I have to wonder, we talked about this too. I have to wonder, is that not the plan? You know what I'm saying? Is that like, we talk about a soft civil war on policies, right? But is this what they're talking about? We're just going to arm everybody and let everybody shoot up everybody. But see, the politicians, they really can do anything about it. They're driving around their own little motorcade. When they leave the Capitol building, they got their own little mini motorcade going to and from work. They've got Secret Service protecting them, helping them, and all that type of stuff. What do we got? What do we have? A questionable relationship. If we have to, as Black men, wonder every time a police car gets behind us if we're going to be okay. Those are the same folks that are supposed to be protecting us.
I'm glad you brought that up. But
Questionable relationship. You know what I mean?
yeah, I was going somewhere, mind my own business. All of a sudden, this police car came right behind me. I mean, he was so close you could measure with a tape measure. I said, "What is this guy doing?" So I just kept on driving. I was driving, and I picked up my phone and I called my wife. I said, "I'm going to get pulled over, and I don't know why." I shouldn't have to do that. And I said, I'm going to return on video just in case I get pulled over. I mean, then out the wild blue, he whipped around me and kept on going. But I talked to a couple of police officers. They said that is a tactic that they do to have you scared and had to do something wrong, shake a little bit or move real quick. And they would say, you weaving this. Listen to this now. I had a friend of mine that was pulled over for weaving in the same lane. How can you weave in the same lane? Pull them over for that reason.
Oh, Ron, I got one better for you. I got pulled over for driving too perfect in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right there on Hope Street. And I hope one of these suckers are listening because I'm telling it right now. Yeah, I was just driving down the street and I knew that the police were behind me. I knew they were following me. So I just went past the county lockup, which was not too far from my house in Michigan. And a police car, started following me. And I was like, okay, well, and where I was at, most of the times they would jut off and go to the highway and go on down to the police station downtown. But they just kept following me. I said, okay, well, they can follow me, you can run a plate. I don't have nothing to hide, do what you do. So, but if I know that you're following me, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to drive like I have some sense. And I was used to it, but right there on Hope Street, they pulled me over. And when I asked him what he pulled me over for, he said, well, you were driving too perfect. Driving too perfect, right? So, that's where it started. It escalated. But let me just say, we didn't have cell phones, weren't as prevalent then, but
Yeah.
we had community eyes that were watching. And it was all of a sudden another police car shows up, and they wanted my driver's license. I would never do this nowadays, by the way. Let me just express this. Back then, I was calling myself going to law school, getting ready to go to law school. And I was, to be honest with you, I was going to enter my first case because I was getting harassed. I was going to enter my first lawsuit as suing the police department, right? And I had a notepad that I kept with me in my car. And every time I got pulled over, I wrote down the officers, the name, the time, and the frequency, right? This time I went a different route. They followed me, pulled me over, and that's what they said. Asked for my driver's license registration. Of course, I asked, well, what did you pull me over for? And they said, well, couldn't say I did anything wrong. So they said, I was driving too perfect. So I said, well, you can't really pull me over for driving too perfect. If there's no violation, I think it's time for you to let me go because we know what this is. Well,
Yeah.
they said, well, we still need to see your driver's license. I said, no, you really don't need to see my driver's license registration if you don't have a valid reason to pull me over. I would not do this again nowadays. Meanwhile, I'm watching two more police officers show up from the other car and stand around, hand on their gun, right? So I said, I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. I'll give you my driver's license registration if I get everybody's name and badge number that's around here right now. And also, I need you to call your street sergeant. And they were like, okay, well, and because I said, still, you haven't really gave me a valid reason why I'm sitting here. Well, it said you fit the description you look of someone we're looking for. That's the other one.
They
Okay, so I
switched.
said, okay. I said, well, then so you're looking for an African American male in a black Lexus with a red and black cross color shirt on. I mean, a yellow and black cross color shirt. I said, I need to see that. I need to see that on your blotter that you're looking for me, somebody that fits my description. So I, again, would never do this nowadays, but they asked me to get out and take a look, and he show it to me on their blotter on the TV. Meanwhile, now at this point, they're covering their badges up.
Yeah.
Okay. So something epiphany said, don't look in that car. Don't put your dumb head in that car because there's a shotgun in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you think would have happened if I'd have reached in there, looked in there, shotgun in the police car and looking at some, fantasy phantom of somebody they're looking for? I don't know, but I wasn't going to do that. So right as I got to that car, so I turned around, I said, listen, I said, you guys know what this is. And I do too. And I threw an attorney's name out there and said, I'm gonna make a phone call. And I said, I'm about to get paid. Or where's the street sergeant? And if he don't show up in the next few minutes, I suggest y'all leave. Now they were so thrown off by how calm and how direct I was, they jumped in the car, took off. They ran, matter of fact, they went straight down the street, which happened to be a dead end, and then they had to turn around and come back right back past me, looking as stupid as ever, like a bunch of Keystone cops. Now, does that happen all the time? No. But did it happen? Yes. Could it happen again? Possibly. But now there's a little difference. Now I have a fraternity on the back of my car now. I have another nice car, right? And it's interesting now because police officers will look back, get behind me sometimes. They'll see that license plate and they'll go, "Uh-oh, I don't know if he's an attorney. I don't know who he is or whatever. He's good. Let me go ahead and make that left." But one thing I'll do, if you got somebody that follows you for an excessive period of time, pull into a gas station. Make them make a choice. You can always put about $2 in your gas tank and make them make a choice. Hey, if you want to go ahead and hit me at the lights at that point, what have you pulled me over for? Because if you're harassing me, they don't have a valid reason to follow you. They got to keep it moving. Yeah. Keep your decorum. Don't get indignant, but you don't have to be harassed by the people whose salary you're paying either.
I got somebody who just said that they were pulled over for weaving in the lane too.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, pull over to a gas station, a well-lit place, and get you about $1 or $2 of gas. and they'll go on, they'll go on. Or you might get one that might want to decide he's gonna have to say something to you then. So you say, "Hey, how you doing today?" Talk. Let them hear that you're intelligent. Let them hear that you're articulate. That may help. I can't guarantee it, but you don't do what the enemy expects you to do. If you're being harassed and you haven't done anything wrong, or maybe they are looking for somebody that you fit the description of, you know what I'm saying? Pull on in the gas station, get you some gas, and if they got something to say, have that conversation while you get some gas. Maybe the police are lost. Maybe they're trying to figure out where they're trying to go. Who knows? You know what I'm saying?
I got pulled over on I-10 years ago, and I forget what car I had at the time, but I was pulled over. Out of nowhere, the police come, so I take the exit, and I pull over. And he said, "Driver, I don't want you to pull over on that side. Pull over on the other side." I said, "What? I'm on the far right side where you should be at, right? On the access road." He had me drive and pull over on the left-hand side, which didn't make any sense. So I complied and did what he said to do. He said, "I need your insurance and registration." So I gave him everything. He looked at me, "This insurance is invalid." I said, "What you mean it's invalid?" "This is not a legal insurance card." I said, "What you mean it's not a legal insurance card? It's got the VIN number, everything on there." I said, "Call and find out." That's not my job. Gave me a ticket for not having the proper insurance. I went to court. I brought the insurance card. Judge said, "You got insurance?" I said, got it right here. He looked at it. He gave it to somebody, and back then it wasn't on. They could see you got insurance like nowadays. It went back, called insurance agent. Everything was fine. The policeman was right there. The judge looked at him and said, "I thought you said he had an invalid insurance card." "Yes, Your Honor, that looked fake." He said, "It's not fake. This man does have insurance." He threw the case out. I looked at the cop and smiled and walked out. That was a waste of my time in the court time.
Well, what I'm glad you showed up. I'm glad it worked out that way. But, at that point, file a complaint.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a paper trail on people like that. A lot of us just try to escape it, just try to deal with, feel like maybe the scales of justice are a little bit tilted a certain way, like I think it was it Eddie Murphy, or was it not Eddie Murphy, was it Richard Pryor or Red Fox that says sometimes you go down to find justice and you just found just us down there, right? That's Richard Pryor, right? Yeah. So what I guess I'm trying to say is, there are a ton of good law enforcement officers out there. Some of them are my fraternity brothers. Some of them are people I know and care about, and I know that they are doing the right thing. But let's just be honest. There's a lot of them that are not. There are some that are not, put it like that. And you've got to understand what you're dealing with, right? And the only way to really deal with the situation is to keep your composure and, live to fight another day. So, and also how you fight is by putting a paper trail on these folks that are doing stuff like that. Because essentially what happened is you were profiled and they had to, he had to do something. He pulled you over. So he had to try to make his ticket quota. And maybe you weren't going to have a valid insurance, right?
Yeah.
So then if that wasn't valid, if he was right, then he's got a legitimate ticket. But if he's not right, then, and you've shown him the insurance, which you complied, and he didn't believe you, well, then now he needs to have a complaint filed against him. So the next time this happens to, then they can say, okay, you've got a pattern. Okay, now if somebody tries to bring a charge against him, you've got a precedent and you've got a pattern. So it's important to fight back, but you got to fight back intelligently. And listen, you don't want to do like I did back that day, back on Hope Street, and hold court in the street. Trust me, they've got more authority than you do in that moment.
Yeah.
Because what does COP stand for? Constable on patrol. Constable on patrol is an extension from an old European term implying a judge has extended some of his authority to the street. That's why they carry that gun, because they can render judgment, including death, if they feel their life is threatened. For some reason, African-American males seem to threaten law enforcement a lot, even when we don't have a weapon. So don't hold court in the street. Hold court in court with an attorney and a valid case that you were harassed. I teach that to the kids all the time. This thing right here, I got two of them. I don't know why the rapper was talking about two phones as if that's something cool to have. Anyway, I put it like this. Both of my phones are headaches at times, ringing. But anyway, so this doesn't have any magical power. It's not going to stop any bullets. It doesn't create a force field. It's going to get you home safely. It may help implicate somebody after you're gone or after something horrible has happened. So keep this on as a last resort, but don't get bold. When we start recording something, we think we're going to be on TMZ or get some followers or whatever the case may be. Yeah, you might, but the outcome might not be so good for you.
Yeah.
Because the moment you grab that phone, you've escalated the situation. Now, I'm not saying don't record it. What I'm saying to you is still be professional, still remember that you are at a disadvantage. You're at a disadvantage. And you need to survive the situation, get your butt home, get back to your loved ones. And I think that's what we need to do in that moment. It's a time to fight. And it's a time to fall back to a better fighting position. And that's straight out of the military handbook.
Yeah.
Nobody would tell you to stand there and fight 2-3 officers that have a handgun that are nervous, and I think what Abbott say, I guess he's going to sign in the law when he gets a chance, the use of non-lethal force. I just saw that the other day. But my question is, are you going to also require law enforcement to use that as a first choice?
Yeah.
Because just because they had a beanbag, we've seen it. We had an officer that had a taser and had a gun, and she grabbed the gun thinking it was the taser.
And she's out of jail right now.
And she's out of jail.
She just got released.
So we got some things to work on.
But I would advise the viewers out there that's listening, for under $100, you can get a rear view camera and put on your rear view mirror. It's going to take a little time to wire up the camera going back of your car and up front. They even got some that on the side. I advise people to spend that little money, put that in your vehicle, and every time you drive somewhere, there's an SD card in there. You can record everything that goes on. It had worked in accidents for people when they say somebody did this, they got the video right there. For less than $100, You can get something like that to put on your car if you want some added um, visual sights of everything that's going on. It records everything at the same time. So, that'd be something for somebody to look into. Nowadays, I got one when I drove to New Mexico. My wife said, "Why'd you get that?" I said, "We're driving a long ways away, and I don't want to get pulled over by the overzealous policeman because we're out in the middle of nowhere." Anybody ever drove to New Mexico? There's it's just empty space. That's it. So I got one for that, and that was one of the best investments I could have got was that camera right there.
Well, I mean, I think that having cameras can be helpful. I like that idea better than putting a cell phone right in the officer's face, and I get it. I get that a lot of times, if that wasn't happening, we wouldn't know about some of the things that have been going on, for a long time, right? But, I still think not holding court in the street, take that evidence, go home, reach out to an attorney, and then go back, because I think we just need to be careful. We've kind of got it coming from all ends. You know what I'm saying? You got to
Yeah.
worry about maybe law enforcement or maybe on edge. You got to worry about the neighbors, that are on edge. You can't go to the door now, if you don't know the person. Maybe, you can't pull up in the driveway now, because somebody might shoot at you. I mean, soon, what was that comedian said? Oh, Chris Rock said, all we're gonna be able to do is go outside and play in our yard. You know what I'm saying? And come on back in the house.
And that's not even safe because what about that one guy who was watering his neighbor plants and the lady across the street called police on him?
Yeah,
They had handcuffs and everything. This lady been to ask him, "How long have you been here?" She said, "Lady, I've been here for 10 years. I know who you are."
man. It's just we've got to the point where we don't see each other as neighbors anymore. It's kind of getting to the point where we, like right now, I know most of the people that are around my immediate, like my immediate, the homes that are around my house. But if I go 3 or 4 houses down, there's one of these houses I don't know who's living there.
Yeah.
you know. And I think, that's just something how I came up. When I grew up in Auburn Hills, up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, we knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody. We knew who was supposed to be in that house. We knew who was supposed to be in the neighborhood. We just knew, right?
Yeah.
And we've got to get back to knowing each other, talking to each other, looking out for each other. We don't always have to agree. I remember that there was, Democrats and Republicans and all that, and we all could be able to coexist. Now it's almost like we're looking at everybody else as a them, and then it's us. When this is supposed to be a commonwealth, this is supposed to be the experiment of democracy where, we vote for our leaders. If we lose, then we move on, we go back to the drawing board, and we support whoever's in power. You can thank number 45 for changing that tradition.
Yeah.
And we got to get back to that. That whole philosophy and everything that was brought in with 45 eventually has to be thrown out. I want to talk about this for a second. I'm not going to deal with it too much because we talk about a lot of news. I like to deal with the psychosis of what's going on. I think it's interesting that in the same day, Carl, what's his name, Tuckerson, and John and Don Lemon got fired on the same day. So doesn't that seem like the extreme right and the extreme left, they were trying to send a message? Somebody was trying to send a message that, and we talked about Montesquieu, Spirit of the Laws before, where you have the two hedges that people are supposed to have the freedom within, and too many people. I was at a restaurant the other day. I know my wife probably don't want me to talk about this, but I'm gonna talk about it anyway. Occasionally when I go out and I go out with my family, there'll be an old person that will just sit there and just scowl at you. Just scowl at you, just look angrily, right? And typically, I've been working on it, Ron. I really have. When I was in the military, and that would happen, I would just stare them back down. I would give them that military stare. Everybody been in the military know what I'm talking about. Basically, I give them that look like, don't start none, won't be none. But if you start some, I'm gonna end it. That's what that look is kind of tells you, you know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
would do, I was with my family, we having a good mood, a lot of good things are going on. I mean, you know what's coming up here for me and our family here not too long. We'll be making those announcements and eventually getting the YouTube channel off. But this guy, man, he just kept staring. So it got to the point where I said, you know, I showed my daughter. I said, I told my daughter to come here and look. I said, I want you to see that. I want you to see what we still have to deal with in this country. I want you to see what racism looks like. That he's so upset that we're sitting here enjoying our meal, that he can't even enjoy his because we're in the same space. That's what a lot of people are upset about. And we might as well bring it out and talk about it because it is a psychosis issue. A lot of them are upset that we are able to live and eat and function in the same space that they can, that we have the same financial resources that they do. But instead of embracing, coming over and speaking, he wants to show his disgust that I'm in the building. But guess what? We're here and we ain't going nowhere. And that's what we have to lay out here. And then instead of looking at ways to try to intimidate, because you ain't intimidating me, you need to figure out how to work with. Because I remember back when 9/11 happened, people that never would have spoke to me before were talking about, hey, how are we doing? Are we okay? Are we okay?
Yeah.
Why are we okay when 9/11 is happening? You wondering if somebody gonna come in here, the Taliban gonna come in here and light you up. Now I'm okay because I'm not one of them. But why do we have to be under duress before we become American? We better be American the whole time, or it's going to be a us them when the shit hits the fan. Sorry to put it out there like that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if it ain't a us when everything is cool, it ain't gonna be a us when everything ain't cool. I was like, why is this dude talking to me? He ain't never talked to me before. And now, since you see I got a cell phone and he want to know if one of these planes are going to drop down or if the Taliban is in the parking lot, whatever. No, the enemy is that fool inside of you saying that that's a them and I can't associate with him unless it's to my benefit. Well, you might as well just keep on walking then. You might as well keep on walking then. Because I see who Americans are. And I took a vow, I don't know about, everybody else has been in the military, to defend against enemies, foreign and domestic. And I know what enemies look like. I know what enemies look like. Taliban, KKK, same thing. Enemies, foreign, domestic, terrorists outside of the United States are the same as terrorists inside the United States. I don't care if you're homegrown or if you're or import. If you're a terrorist, we need to deal with you the same way.
Amen.
So
Amen.
if you're growing a terrorist in your house right now, let me tell you what a terrorist looks like. A terrorist might be the one sitting on GTA or Call of Duty in your house right now. That decides one day he doesn't like being bullied. So he's going to take a weapon that you didn't know he had or had access to when he turns 18 and go out and he's going to become a terrorist. Look around. There's how many school shootings in 2023? 160 mass shootings across the U.S. so far this year. And that's according to the BBC News. See, the world is watching us. This wasn't a local channel. This was the BBC News. How many U.S. mass shootings have been there in 2023? See, there's ramifications to our lack of action. The world is watching. The world is watching. So I don't know, if you're from another country, how would you feel about coming and spending money here in the United States and traveling to our beautiful country and not knowing if there's going to be a shooting at the place you're going to? You think that's going to affect the bottom line at all? You think it's going to affect tourism at all? You better believe it. I bet it's a whole lot of people in Sudan right now wishing they ever traveled over there.
Yeah.
Same thing over here. It's been 160 mass shootings. I know if I was living over in another country and heard about the United States, I'd be like, ooh, we got to wait a minute. I really wanted to see New York, but I really wanted to go down to San Antonio and see the Alamo and all that. But hell, it seemed like the Alamo was going on right now, everywhere.
Yep.
And where's it going to pop up next? Who knows?
And you got that right, because always tell everybody to be aware of their surroundings. When you go out that day, make sure you
Listen,
kiss your loved one and tell them you love them, because you don't know.
listen. Situational awareness right now has never been more important than it is right now. You got to pay attention who's around you, where you're at, large groups of people. You just have to pay attention. I'm not saying live in fear. What I'm saying is live in awareness and stop being soft targets. You already know how I move, Ron.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you already know how I move. So, and a lot,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people like me out here. But a lot of people gotta become like me. See, that will be the deterrent. You know, you pull up in a parking lot with one AK, and there's about 5 other AKs in that parking lot waiting on you. That might lower your odds, right? But at the same time, I don't know, with the mental health issues we got, how many of those 5 AKs are owned by stable people?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer in terms of all of us being well armed with AKs and our ARs and all that. But I do think we need to have more law enforcement that are better equipped at these locations, so that when active shooters happen, they can neutralize the target. We don't have a couple minutes to respond or get on scene when something like that is going on. I mean, imagine if your child is in one of those schools. Do you want them to have free reign and access to your child out in the playground? Or do you want somebody on that site that's able to respond to the threat?
Yeah.
And that's what I think we're going to have to get to, man. I mean, we are in a mental health crisis in this country. And part of it goes back to school, where we're not teaching social skills at the level we need to. So now the first time somebody has a crisis, they want to become a mass shooter. That young man that was at the bank that just went off, he was getting
Yeah.
fired. He was getting ready to get fired. You ain't never been fired before, right? You never, so he never, that's somebody that you got to talk about the psychosis of that. You go through life, you've been getting all these awards for just showing up. You've been, not winning. Like my daughter, A honor roll, right? I'm not gonna put the name of the school, but A honor roll. Great thing. She earned that. So we celebrate that. Some people get awards for just showing up. Mediocrity. You can just get an award for it. So how does that play out as you get older? I should just be able to get a job, hold a job just because I show up. No, that's not how the world works. If you're not valuable, you're going to get fired. If you're not doing your job, unless you're a politician in the United States of America in Congress and don't have to do a damn thing, but say no and not have a plan, you're going to get fired.
You remember
But hold on, let me finish. So when you get fired, instead of going, man, I need to tighten up, I need to do something better, I need to work on my job, I need to then go out and find a job, because you've been so titled, maybe been coddled so much your whole life. Now you have your first challenge in life. You want to go get a gun and shoot up the whole place. That's where we're at. We become too soft. If we just want to call it like it is, yeah, we had some bullies back in the day, but we didn't go get a gun and shoot up the school. We maybe hit the gym, learn how to fight back, learn how to evade, develop some skills. But what the kids are doing now are shooting up something all day.
Exactly.
So what happens when they run into that first bit of opposition? They go to what they've been doing all their life, shooting up stuff. And we gonna make sure they are well armed to do it. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox with that. I think I tied in mental health issues. I think I tied in what's been going on, and we put a context to it. Open up your eyes. Demand first check, and instead of looking at the politicians, we need to look at what's going on in our own homes. Check in on that family or family member that has a child is maybe spend a little bit too much time on the video games. Talk to them. Make sure they have the social skills. Make sure they understand that this weapon that's in this house or you have access to is only to be used in self-defense. That's it. And also show them the power of that weapon, what they have. That's catastrophic loss.
Yeah.
This isn't Call of Duty. This isn't GTA. You don't get a second life. You don't get a third life or a fourth life. You get one. And whatever your issue is, it's not as important as that life of that baby or that child that's in that school. That's it. We got to see these folks as terrorists, and we got to root them out before they have a chance to act out. And that means the community is going to have to self-check. There was a lady who called on her son, and I cannot think of her name right now, but she saw that her son was going to do something violent, and she called her own son in. That woman needs to be rewarded, and she needs to be applauded, because that's what we're going to need. We're going to need people to know that your child ain't right. You know if your baby ain't right.
Yeah.
Don't. Maybe listen to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing you want to do is be like the Crumleys up in Detroit area, is buy him a gun when you know that boy ain't right.
That's right.
I dare everybody within the sound of my voice to look in that situation at the Crumleys and look at how many missed gaping opportunities they had to stop that situation. Just look at it. Look at it for yourself. I've been looking at this stuff and I'm like, ooh, nobody see this? Y'all think what's his name? Jamie Foxx said like if what's his name? Mike Tyson came into a room, they're like, nobody see this pit bull? Somebody this came in the room, nobody see? Yeah. I've worked with colleagues. Some of them are be on my site, life coaches. We worked and we've seen some stuff. We've seen somebody, we're like, we're going to have to keep eyes on him or her. Something ain't right there. If something ain't right there, dig deeper. You might be right. Something might not be right there. Dig deeper. Don't quit being, oh, that ain't my business. Well, it might be your business soon.
Yeah.
It might be your business real soon. It might be one of your children's real soon. Goes back to community. We got to get back to it.
Because I know back in the days, you're probably familiar with this being a Midwesterner, I should say.
Yes, sir.
That,
Yes, sir. Proud of it.
We had block parties where everybody in that area brought a potluck, we barbecued, we sat down there, somebody playing music, and we got to know all our neighbors. When somebody new moved into town, we knocked on the door and brought them a dish and welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's how we did it back then. I don't know what happened to it, but I don't even want to bring it back in. Like you said, knock on the door may be bad news. But that's how we used to do it back then. We knew our neighbors. We knew the neighbor kids. The kids knew you better not step out of line because somebody down the street going to call your parents before you get home. That's how we were brought up. To this day, I couldn't figure out how my dad found out I was trying to smoke cigarettes. I got home that day. He knew about it right away.
Listen, and also I might have said, I just received some information. I said Tucker Carlson's name, or I always want to call him Carlson Tucker or whatever. I don't know. His correct name was Tucker Carlson, who was let go from Fox News. So
He was shocked.
I'll appreciate my editor, my wife, for letting me know that I said that wrong. You know, we need help sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And I want to shout out my beautiful wife. They're keeping me on point. So.
Yeah, but he was shocked once the news is coming out. He was, because on Friday evening, he said, I see everybody Monday morning. He didn't see this coming.
Well,
I'm gonna back it up. Bill O'Reilly also got fired for that time slot too. So does Jeff Beck. They all got fired for that time slot.
You know, I think, you know, we've talked about this on this show many times, that eventually, as Malcolm X said, the chickens are going to come home to roost, right? You cannot continue to put so much trash and garbage out there in the community, don't think that it's not going to be blow back on you at some point.
Yeah.
I think it's now a safe bet that if you've been listening to Fox News as your primary source of news, I can't say it without laughing, I'm sorry. If you've been listening to Fox News as your primary source of news, you might be a little bit brainwashed. Is it safe to say that? Yeah, it's safe to say that.
Very safe to say that.
You don't have to pay out $1 billion. I'm sorry, $787 million if you haven't done some serious damage somewhere. Nobody settles for $787 million. Also, they're facing additional lawsuits. That was just the first one.
Yep.
Now, I do believe, now what's interesting is that Don Lemon and, let me say this right because my wife told me now, that Tucker Carlson, what do they have in common other than being fired on the same day? The same attorney. They now have the same attorney, and they're about to sue both networks. So Fox got sued for $787 million. They're being sued again for, I think, 1.6 or maybe 2-something billion dollars.
That's what it is.
Now they're about to get sued again from Carl Tuckerson, or Tucker Carlson, whatever his name. Tucker Carlson, yes, my wife is correcting me. There's some problems at Fox News. So maybe it's time to reevaluate some of the stuff that you believe, if that's all you're watching, that maybe you're being brainwashed a little bit. Learn how to critically think for yourself. So maybe we can start believing back into the integrity of our elections a little bit again, since that was their main thing, is that it was illegal with no facts, no court would stand up and say that, even though the big lie was disproven many, many times, even the folks that were telling people that it was valid knew that it wasn't valid. Maybe there's some other things that weren't valid or weren't like what they, put out there.
Yeah.
It's time for us to start really rethinking, evaluating, and holding people accountable for being misled. But if you are happy to be misled based on your greed, fear, and phobias, we know what greed, fear, and phobias turn into. They turn into hatred. That's what those fear and phobias turn into. It turns into the guy that was at the restaurant I was at is just staring mad. Don't know why he's mad, but he's mad. Wants me to know he's upset because I'm enjoying time with my family. Well, guess what? Stay upset. He's on the way out anyway. Looked like he's about 86 and barely holding on anyway. Maybe those folks will just, you got to love them, right? I guess God says you have to love your enemy. I still need some work. I would love for him to talk to God as soon as possible. And if he grabs a weapon, my job is to help him meet him as soon as possible. See, that's where we're at. We have invested too much into this country, blood, sweat, tears, and worked for hundreds of years for free.
Amen to that.
For you to sit here and think that we're not going to enjoy our day, our table, and our food, and enjoy our day. And if you got a problem with that, that's your problem. That's your problem.
What is it I always say? The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem.
The problem is your attitude about the problem. Stop watching Fox News. Stop watching all things. So now in your mind, you see a black person, no matter what, he's the enemy. And you're so ignorant, you're going to shoot at a child, ring the doorbell, because you've created this enemy, this fear and this phobia in your head. It's got to go, man. There's no place in our country for folks like that. No place. And you know what? If you want to go live in some little valley or whatever, and y'all can all feel, safe and secure, but watch it. You're not even safe and secure amongst your own, because y'all the ones shooting up the place.
Yeah.
Hey, get fired from a job, they're going to go on into that place. So we got to understand, we got to teach coping skills. We got to get back to that sense of community. Right.
Yeah.
And there's some people in the community that they just gonna need a little more love and attention, right? So they need to go there for them. But I'll raise my right hand to defend against enemies, foreign and domestic, and that's what I still hold on to. And right now, I got to protect my family and the ones I love and I care about. And we're not gonna start nothing, but trust me, if you start it, we got to be able to handle it.
Yeah. And right now, it's nothing foreign in the United States. It's all domestic, and they need to address that. Like I just found out, well, I've been knowing about it, but January 6th, some of them folks still been locked up for all these years. And our favorite congresswoman from Georgia went to go visit them in jail. Like, what you gonna bring them, bread and water? You know,
It's attention, pretty much. She wants to bring attention, right?
Yeah.
To these folks and just playing up the divisions. And I see them. Yeah, I see what's going on. But you know what? Just hold on, Ron. Just hold on. Just like Fox News started to get their just due, these folks will too.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time, but what they're scared of is actually happening. Their constituencies, the young folks that are coming behind, they're seeing these folks. See, history is being recorded right now. All these folks that are doing this, bombastic, ignorant, obviously blatant racist type stuff, history is being recorded right now. And people are watching. Youngsters are watching. You can talk to people like my daughter, 11 years old, and you'll be surprised how perceptive they are at what's going on. So what do you think's going to happen? Sooner or later, they all going to be out of office. And that's what they're scared of. They can only redistrict or gerrymander so much. But that's what they're scared of. They're scared of being voted out of office, losing their stronghold. Because one thing I have to say, Black and brown people do well is we know how to survive. And some of us are starting to thrive. And yes, we see the tactics. We know the gaslighting. We know how you're projecting your BS on us. We see it.
Yeah.
And we're just going to politely and ever so nicely get your butt out of office and put somebody in there eventually that's going to do something. And it's going all the way from the top down. See, even Clarence Thomas. Yeah, he's y'all's. He ain't ours. We know it. He sold out. We know. And now you see what he sold out for. He wants to rub elbows with the billionaires and all that and go on lavish vacations and all that type of stuff. And then he knows he has to, toe the party line. He's got that get out syndrome. Watch the movie if you know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
All right, that's what he got. So we see you all the way from the top down. And just because you got brown skin don't mean you have an African-American mentality. There's always been people in the plantation living in the house. I said that as nice as I could,
I'll say it for you. We always
don't even say it. Don't even.
I'm not scared. I'll say it.
you don't have to say it, Ron. Don't you don't have to say it, man. I think we said that pretty eloquently. We're gonna try to, we're gonna save the real terminology for it a little bit later on, And just because, let me tell you something. I'm gonna address something too. Just because you speak intelligently and articulately don't make you a house. All right?
Yeah.
You got to understand something. Malcolm X was one of the most articulate, clear-speaking brothers out here, but you know where he stood and what he died for.
Right.
So before you misjudge somebody, understand what their work is and what they are, and you can understand a Clarence Thomas, Uncle Tom versus somebody that knows how to speak the language, but is still doing the work that you can't do. See, you can't discount somebody that can speak clearly because that's how you're heard. That's how you're heard. Yeah. If I come in and speak in a certain way, they're just going to write you off as ignorant. But if you come in and you're saying the right thing the right way, and you got the money behind you, and you got people and corporations behind you, you got to listen to that. You got to listen to that. We have to get to a point in this country where you listen to those folks that have really something to say. Make sure you're saying something. And I'm gonna tell you that the folks that really need to sit down, the folks that are talking about they're not going to vote. They're not, because they're so disgusted with everything. Well, if you're not going to vote, you've already removed yourself from the conversation. So you got to get out here and vote, but you need to do it in a collective way. We need to start doing things collectively to the best interest of ourselves, but that's going to require us to educate ourselves on the issues. In our circle, we got our brother right now, Glenn, I have to call him out. He sent us a message to examine this Proposition A. We're going to look at it. We're going to educate ourselves on it and know how to vote about it. What's the truth about this legislation? Just because the other side says, oh, they're trying to do this or do that. No, what does the law actually say? What are they trying to do? Educate yourself. Don't just go on the talking points of what a party says, because look up straw man fallacy. Everybody look up what a straw man fallacy is. And I'll just give you a little bit of definition of what they do is they take one little part of the argument, blow that way out of proportion, and then present that as that's what the whole argument is, which is a lie. That's what it is. And a lot of times you have to get in, look at what the proposition is about, look at what they're trying to do, and then you vote accordingly. But you have to be wise, and you have to use critical thinking. And you need to do that before it's completely exposed that who you are following is a sham, a crook, having to pay $787 million because they have put nothing but lies out there. Now, I'm not saying that lies don't happen in the media all the time in different ways, but there's some people that's all they do is lie.
It was blatant.
And you know what? I've been watching Fox News and I've been watching CNN, and it's real interesting. Fox News has not reported at any point that Tucker Carlson is fired.
Oh, they did.
When? I didn't see it. Did they say it?
It was that black lady that was on there that's with them. She said that we got some news report. Tucker Carlson is no longer with Fox News. But and another thing they didn't report is when they lost that $787.5 million. Yeah, they never reported that on their station.
Isn't that news? Regardless of if you agree with it or not, what you can't even say, yeah, we just lost, we just got hit with a $787 million, lawsuit. I mean, that's new. That should tell you something right there. That's significant. I can't think in history that's ever happened to a network.
Never happened.
And if you're not reporting on that, isn't that a dereliction of your duty as a news reporter? That's significant.
Well, they're not. They did what they try to put up free speech and all that stuff with the judge. And the judge determined they're not a newspaper, they're a magazine. Even Sean Hannity admitted that, we're not news, we're just a magazine.
No, it says on there Fox News.
It says Fox News.
It doesn't say Fox Magazine. It doesn't say Fox Propaganda. It says Fox News.
I agree with you, but Sean Hannity admitted it on live TV that we're not really a news organization. We're more like a magazine.
Well, then they should be required to put that on their advertising.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because some people somewhere that don't really read on their own are assuming that that's valid news.
And when's the last time you see them out there reporting anywhere besides with 45?
I'll be honest with you. I don't really watch them enough to know what they do or don't do, other than the fact that I do check in to kind of see what rhetoric and what lies they're putting out, so I can adjust and know what some folks are going to believe because they don't do their own work. So that's really what I do. When I watch a lot of the news, I understand how they're slanted. And, I don't remember CNN talking too much about Don, Lemon being, what's his name? Did I say that right? Don Lemon. I know they probably made an announcement, but neither one of them are really going into detail specifically of why people were let go. And there's probably legal reasons for that, right? But we talk about so many different things to exhaustion, but why would you got this big major thing happen and everybody's so quiet about it? Mm-hmm. I think that should give some people some pause. I want to know why these #1 anchor positions were just let go on the same day.
Right. Now I do know the state of Texas, I don't know how other states, is an at-will state. That means they can fire you no matter what. It doesn't make a difference what it is. It's an at-will state.
I think people need to realize that, and I heard somebody say this, and you know what? I'm not celebrating anybody losing their job, but somebody, because Don put out there, well, nobody taught me to talk or whatever. Look, they don't have to call you to talk, man. You were fired. That's it. You know, you because somebody called Don and tell him how fire works because he done messed around and thought that he moved up. Listen, you don't own that place. Okay,
Yeah.
I think Roland Martin said this. See, you got to have your own stuff before you kind of forget that line, that invisible line. And if you're African American, I don't have to tell you this. You already know there's an invisible line you have to walk when you're in a corporation that you don't own.
Yeah.
You just have to know that line. And I think he forgot that line. And when he starts saying things like a woman is past her prime and all that type of stuff, who are you, dog? Who are you to say who's past your prime? You can't do stuff like that. That's one of them thoughts you hold in the back of your head and you don't let come out your mouth.
Yeah.
Especially if you are on and there's always been this double standard. I mean, my grandfather, he's sitting back here on when he got the keys to the house back there. This brilliant man right here that broke the red line in 1965, right there. Yeah, he taught me a couple things. One of that you have to work twice as hard to have the same opportunity as anybody else.
Amen.
And that you can't get away with some of the things that other people get away with. And that's one of those things that you have to understand. So don't forget that we don't own any of these networks. We don't own, unless you have a practice like me, I can say whatever the hell I want to say right now. Because you own that station, I own my practice. Now, when I leave here and I go and work on this contract that I'm working on, I can't go on this military base and say whatever the hell I want to say, how I want to say it. Because I don't own the base. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I got to understand, and I know what I'm supposed to say because I've been in the military. There's ways for me to get my point across, but I've got to do what the contract says. So to all those young men and young ladies that are going to school right now, and you are brown or black, African American like me, understand the rules are not the same for you. Let me tell you that. I'm going to tell you like the judge that we went up to. I'm trying to say this quick. We have mentorship programs. I'm a Kappa. We have this program called the Guide Right, and we have one of the best mentorship programs in the country in terms of getting people in front of business owners, doctors, lawyers, law enforcement, whatever. And we had a judge who has a show out in the West Coast, and I forget his name now. But this young man stood up and he was so eloquent, and we're talking about police violence and all that. And he said, well, why is it that we always have to keep ourselves under control, and they are law enforcement, they're supposed to be under control, and we can't have our phones, and we can't say this or we can't say that, and they're supposed to be protecting us. And he said, oh, I understand what your problem is, young man. You think the world is fair. It's not.
Yep.
Coming from a judge that had a nationally syndicated show, that really resonated. Now, to those of us that are older, we were like, well, yeah, everybody knows that. But wait a minute. These young folks, they maybe are still living in that idealistic world where they're hearing justice for all and, you know, every man is created equal. They don't know their history and what they used to say about us, that we were 3/4 of a man at one point. And some people still assume that we are that.
Yep.
Until they say the wrong thing and we knock their head off or whatever the case may be. And then, you know, and that's happening all over the place. So many people are getting, I mean, you seen it. You all you do is watch YouTube and Karens and what do they call them? Kens. They get their blocks knocked off. I mean, you know, they get that way.
Again. That lady said, say it again. She did. Pow. You know.
it's not funny, but it's funny. But you know, at the end of the day, there's a line that we have to walk.
Yeah.
And we can continue to try to educate folks to what this line is. why this line is here, and we know it. We talk about it. We're gonna put it out there. Maybe that's a section. What's that invisible line or the glass ceiling that so many people are figuring out how to break through just a little bit, right? But we have to break through it, a lot of it. Malcolm X said it best. When the Jewish community was excluded from Virginia Beach, they knew what they had to do to be included in Virginia Beach. They bought it. We have to buy and own the space that we want to operate in. That's how you get to mutual respect. That's how we start to make a difference. And you got to participate in every structure that we have, but you got to first understand who you are.
Yeah.
You got to understand the damage that was done to you psychologically. You got to understand the damage that was done to you historically. You have to understand the damage that was done to you socioeconomically. And then we have to move, not just sit, not just complain, not just feel like it's overwhelmed. Our ancestors will not allow us to sit complacent when we are in the promised land that they envision. Now we have to make that promised land even better for our next generation. This society will not stand. How you teach your children, your number one resource, is the reflection of how a society will evolve. Our children are not safe. That means our future is not safe. That's the bottom line. And until we get legislators to understand that, they need to find whatever door they came in and walk their simple asses out. And if they don't want to walk out, we got to move them out by any means necessary. If you don't understand that, then you move aside and just don't vote until you get it together.
Yeah.
Our number one priority on the ballot coming up is whoever is going to protect our kids. Let me clarify it for you. I know we're talking about green this and gas that, and that has its place, because I don't know why in the heck it's still snowing in Michigan right now, but it is. You know, so you can't tell me something ain't going on with the. I don't know what we're doing today. I don't know if I need to have on a sweater, a raincoat. What I don't know what's going on today. It's sunny right now, but later on today, who knows what's going to happen? I don't know.
Yeah, it's 7 degrees outside, so you don't have to worry about anything.
Okay, good. Today, you know, but what was it? Yeah, last week it was 40 degrees. God, that's why I'm talking sounding like, you know, Barry White partially, because my body know what to do, man. But anyway, so
yeah,
I know that's important. I know that's important, but we got to understand something. We got to get our kids safe. And anybody that's standing in the way of that, they got to go. They got to go. You know, let's take care of that. Then we can start working on these other things. These other things in the community we got to get back to, where we know each other, we know our neighbors, we go out and do those block parties again, or something accustomed to that. It's harder to shoot at one of your neighbors, cousins, or kids when you know them, when you have some shared experiences. And I'm not talking about just know them on social media, you know, Facebook, looking at clicking likes, because that's not a real genuine relationship. I'm talking about sit down with them, talk to people, understand what they're trying to do in life, understand who they are. We got to get back to that.
Yeah.
And I think that will solve a lot of things. Back in the day, our teachers used to live in the community that we, you know, sent our kids in. They used to know each other, right? We used to know generation of kids. We used to know who they're. One of the mentors of mine that I looked up to, who was a fraternity brother of mine who passed away, but Mr. Reuben Smart in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Everybody within the sound of my voice in Grand Rapids is hearing this. They still will know who Reuben Smart is. Why? Because he knew who you were. He knew who your family was. He knew where your sisters were, your brothers were, your mother, you know, who your mother married, you know, his family. And he knew them by name. and he would check on you, see how you were doing. That's what we have lost.
Yeah.
And that's why we're in the situation we're in. You know, we got to bring back that sense of community and caring and understanding each other. And, that's important. Right. And we got some other things we need to do too, that we could talk about. And, I'm gonna challenge the Divine Nine to get on point with that, with getting into the community more, going into the churches more, working with the kids more, so they can understand our values and what got us thus far. Because we are not in the promised land yet. We just got a little bit closer to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All
that's
right,
it.
my brother, look at this. Well, I don't know about you. I'm at to put a stopwatch on you, but it's all good though. It's all good. I,
Hey,
I enjoyed everything. Somebody pointed out to me before we closing it out here. Um, they said, you know what WSAN radio stands for? I said, no, what do you mean? And I said, I'm gonna tell you what you stand for, what you're doing. WSN radio is the voice for the voiceless. I said, I like that. I like that. She said, because you're reaching out to people that normally wouldn't have nothing to say, but when you reach out to them, they start talking. So you keep on doing what you're doing and everything, because the subject matters we brought up today, you won't have nobody touch some of the topics that we did today because they too scared. So the topics we today was right on point, right on time, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate this show, this opportunity, folks who are that are listening. I appreciate all of our listeners, and take this conversation to your circles. Take it to your people, and talk about what we need to do, and what our number one focus would be. If you don't agree with me, that's fine, but then counter it with something.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think it's going to be hard to argue that our number one resource and our number one priority should be protecting our children. That's kind of like a no-brainer, right?
Yep.
But again, on that note, we're gonna end it with, your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. And your inaction also speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. I don't want to hear nothing from nobody who don't understand the mission.
Yes.
If you don't understand the mission, you start sounding like that character on the Peanuts, the teacher. Wah,
Oh,
wah, wah,
oh,
wah, wah.
oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all I hear. I don't hear that. When I cut on the news and they're talking about all this mess, it don't mean nothing. I don't. What are the facts? What are we doing about it?
yeah,
What's the plan? And if you're not, you need to go on back.
yeah.
And once we start seeing people, and see, it's only going to take about maybe 3 or 4 of those folks to lose their seat before people wake up and go, oh, okay, really, we got to work for real now. We can't just say no. We gotta put some meaningful legislation back in place.
And I think the first one to be put in place is term limits.
Hey, let's go. Hey, I'm all for that.
You
Term limit.
you can't be a career politician. I mean,
Mm-mm.
50 years being a senator. Come on now. Your thought process 50 years ago is the same thought process you have right now.
Yeah,
It has,
society is changing so quickly.
yeah,
We can't, there's some things that need to stay the same, obviously, but it can't be done the same way. Even those things can't be done the same way.
yeah,
We have to invite some innovation. We have to get back to, we have to, I really wish we could bring some of those commonsensical principles back, to just, good old common sense. It's not common anymore.
yeah,
It's getting to the point where we're going to have to teach common sense in the schools. We used to have, but we used to have that. We used to have coaches. We used to have counselors. I remember, rest in peace, Mr. Clinkscales in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was our coach, our counselor. And, he would let you know if you're doing something jacked up. He would tell you, well, did that make any sense? Like,
yeah,
go run up that hill till you figure out what the heck you're supposed to do. After about the third time, you got it. Oh, I was supposed to do this or that. No, run up 3 more times
yeah,
until it's set in. We got to get back to, some good old common sense, things. And, I don't know why, before it's too late,
yeah.
we got to get there. So, and I talk to some of these kids and I look at them and I go, how did you think that? Then I talk to their parents and I go, oh, okay. I got it. I get it.
All right, my brother.
That's it.
Great show again. And we will talk to you down the line. And I'm ready to take off, go play. So I'm gonna give you a call this afternoon.
Sounds good.
All right,
Thank
you take care, brother. All right, okay.
Bye-bye.